As someone who has a YouTube channel where I do nothing but talk about movies and television, a lot of people have asked me what movie or which director sparked my initial interest in the medium. Essentially, they want to know how I became such a film nerd. And in truth, the real answer is quite embarrassing. Typically, cinephiles will tell you that someone like Wes Anderson or David Lynch were their gateway into thinking about film critically, but for me, it was M. Night Shyamalan. And look, I get it. The man butchered arguably the greatest animated television series of all time, and he's not exactly been in great form as of late, but his recent and mid-career failures don't just magically erase his great movies from existence. And yes, M. Night Shyamalan has made some phenomenal films. I would argue that his initial 3-movie run of The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, and Signs is one of the greatest starts to a director's career of all time. I mean, magazines were claiming that M. Night might be the next Spielberg at one point. It's honestly very comparable to a current director on the rise like Jordan Peele. Peele's first film, Get Out, is considered a great horror film, just like The Sixth Sense was. His second movie, Us, is held in lower regard but was still very popular and received some critical acclaim, just like Unbreakable did. And his third movie, Nope, was centered around UFOs and a potential alien invasion, just like Signs was. In fact, I think it'd be fair to say that Nope was partially influenced and inspired by Signs. So essentially take what people currently think about Jordan Peele as a director, and you'll have a pretty good idea of what people thought of M. Night Shyamalan when he was on his come-up. And for me, The Sixth Sense changed everything. Now, as a young Screen Stories, I was not a horror fan whatsoever. The gore and over-the-top brutality of slasher films just didn't appeal to me yet. But one day I found myself in a Hollywood video store, and I know I'm dating myself with that reference, if you know, you know. And my parents told me I could rent any VHS of my choosing. And for whatever reason, the cover of The Sixth Sense really grabbed my interest. It had the guy from Die Hard on it, and an outline of a kid surrounded by a really cool looking six. In my mind, having an additional sense was probably some kind of superpower or hidden ability. Suffice to say that going into the movie, I had no idea what it was actually about, but essentially the film opened my eyes to the world of psychological thrillers. And given that I was fairly young while watching the movie, I could easily put myself in Cole's shoes. The idea of being able to see dead people was and remains terrifying. Couple this with Haley Joel Osment giving, in my opinion, the greatest performance of all time by a child actor, and I was glued to the screen throughout the entirety of the film. The way tension was built in each scene just kept me so invested, even though there wasn't any over-the-top action or fight scenes. And when we got to the twist reveal, my mind was absolutely blown. I could not believe that such a huge twist was worked into the film right under my nose. And massive spoiler alert for this next part, but as soon as I realized Bruce Willis had been dead this whole time, the first thing I wanted to do was rewatch the movie. M. Night truly writes dialogue that is stilted and unnatural, and this forces you to pay attention to the way and exactly how characters are saying things. And upon a rewatch of The Sixth Sense, I found myself for the first time trying to analyze a film scene by scene. The ending reveal caught me so off guard that I just had a deep desire to try to piece together the signs of the twist on a second go-around. And I mean, in the scene where Cole tells Dr. Malcolm that he sees dead people, we literally get hard cuts to the doctor throughout the scene. M. Night was subtly telling us through his dialogue and camera work that Bruce Willis was really dead the whole time. You just fail to pick up on any of it until that final puzzle piece is placed by Shyamalan at the very end. And this experience with The Sixth Sense was really what made me go from someone who just watched film as an escape, something I could passively enjoy, to someone who viewed it as something to truly analyze and examine in order to uncover hidden, deeper meaning. Unbreakable did something very similar for me as well, because as soon as I finished The Sixth Sense for the second time, I had a deep desire to watch everything M. Night had directed. And in my adolescence, I was also a big fan of Tobey's Spider-Man, Blade, and the OG X-Men movies. So a superhero film directed by the man who made The Sixth Sense was right up my alley. But Unbreakable was such a slow build and understated superhero story, and I found that really fascinating. In some ways, it deconstructed everything that I had grown to believe a superhero film should be. There wasn't any large action set pieces or CGI fight sequences. It was really just a character-driven mystery. David Dunn doesn't even want to accept his powers initially. He has to be driven to accept them by Mr. Glass. And the twist at the end of the film definitely didn't catch me off guard in the same way that The Sixth Sense did, but it was a fitting twist for Unbreakable, and to me was a satisfying close to what was an emotionally charged story. While the fate of the universe wasn't at stake here, there were countless tension-filled scenes. The moment that stuck with me the most was when David's son was pointing a gun at him and threatening to shoot him in order to prove that his dad had powers. That was and still is one of my favorite movie scenes of all time. In a lot of ways, it feels like the moment that all of his family turmoil was building up to. And rather than letting his son shoot him in order to resolve the situation, he talks his son down and uses his intellect. And I think that's quite powerful, because while he accepted that he could use his powers to better the world he lives in, he also realized that in order to fix his fractured family, he'd have to do it with his words and emotions. Now, Signs did not have nearly the same impact on me. I think the film is alright. There is phenomenal suspense building on display throughout it, just as there was in his first two movies, but the third act collapse and much weaker script definitely hurt my experience watching Signs. Overall, it's like a 6.5, maybe 7 out of 10 for me, but regardless of the issues with Signs and the much larger issues with some of M. Night's other films, I will still always hold a very special place in my heart for both The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable. They're still two of my all-time favorite movies, and they really opened my mind to the wonders of filmmaking and started me down the path that led to this channel's creation in all honesty. So while he may be seen as a joke of a filmmaker by some due to his failures, M. Night Shyamalan's incredible early directorial outings are what sparked my love of film. Well, if you made it this far, I'd love to know which director or what movie initially made you a cinephile. If you're curious about my thoughts on M. Night's career in its totality, I have made an entire video breaking down his career and the frustrations of being an M. Night fan, so please feel free to check that video out if you haven't. I hope you enjoyed this video, thank you for watching, and until next time, peace.